Rachel Zegler as Snow White, and it's been an interesting casting because this woman is extraordinarily woke, as everyone is in Hollywood, but she's woke in a way that's quite deranged.
Can you tell us a little bit about your version of Snow White?
Yeah, I mean, Snow White is the girl you remember, but she's definitely made for the modern age, and there's such an emphasis on what it really means to be the fairest of them all. And for Snow White, it's coming to terms with finding herself and finding her inner voice and finding a sense of agency so that she can be a just ruler and a wonderful queen.
Then the star of the film, Rachel Zegler, proceeded to light all that goodwill on fire. She made it clear that she thinks the story of Snow White is actually very creepy and misogynistic.
Rachel Zegler is facing backlash as her woke version of Snow White gets pulled from theaters.
She's trying to reinvent herself because there's been so much blowback, and you can only imagine the studio calls about this woman behind the scene. Like, oh my God, we're $242 million in, and our lead actress hates our film.
And I saw myself on screen, and I just wanted to.
Once upon a time, Disney thought they had a solid gold hit on their hands. A live-action reboot of Snow White, the princess that started it all. But what was supposed to be a magical return to the classics turned into, well, a total disaster. Now, theater chains are pulling the movie off their schedules. Yanked, gone, poof, just like that. Everyone's pretty shook. This kind of thing almost never happens with Disney, the company that basically prints money off remakes like this. But this time, Zegler's in the hot seat alone. When Snow White finally dropped in theaters, you'd think there'd be at least a crowd pretending to be excited. But nope. Rachel showed up to a ghost town. She was literally the only one in the theater. Front row, grinning like the Joker, giggling at her own performance while rows and rows of seats stayed cold and empty.
To film herself in a theater totally empty, giggling, tee-hee-heeing with total glee.
Clips of her laughing alone quickly went viral, and as expected, people are not showing any mercy. Ouch. Big ouch.
That at every premiere and everything I do, people will wait in line to.
Well, this didn't age well. Along with the empty theater and that manic solo screening, reviews came in swinging, slamming the movie as a preachy, joyless mess. Which sucks because Rachel had pitched the film as a fresh moral reboot, a modern tale meant to uplift and empower.
I have a different approach to what I'm sure a lot of people will assume is a love story just because, like, we cast a guy in the movie. Right. Andrew Burnap, great dude.
And all that schmaltz. But instead of inspiring anyone, it just annoyed the living crap out of diehard Disney fans. People who came for magic and nostalgia, not lectures and drama.
That it's no longer 1937, and we absolutely wrote a Snow White that is
not going to be saved by the prince.
She's not going to be saved by the prince, and she's not going to be dreaming about true love. She's dreaming about becoming the leader she knows.
Man, the backlash has been swift and brutal. The 1937 amazing movie will be around a lot longer than this Hollywood trash. Insiders are now reporting that things have gotten so intense behind the scenes that Ms. Zegler is dealing with some serious emotional stress.
Snow White is listed as one of the worst films in history. Right now it has a 1.5. Okay, this isn't looking...
Yeah, you can't really blame her for breaking down. The buzz around this movie wasn't just bad press. It was all bad press. There had been crazy rumors of drama on set, creative disagreements, and backstage beef completely hijacking their conversation. Nobody was talking about the movie's story or visuals anymore. They were too busy gossiping about who was mad at who. By the time the film hit theaters, everyone had moved on from "will this be good?" to "who's fighting now?" What we're hearing is that Rachel and Gal Gadot weren't exactly besties. That tension, combined with painfully low box office numbers, led to theaters bailing out faster than the audience.
No woke and the 7 pronouns is sitting at 43% on the tomato meter on Rotten Tomatoes.
Key markets reported near-empty screenings on opening weekend, and that's when the real panic started. Safe to say, this may be Disney's biggest flop yet. Let's be real, Disney is known for throwing their marketing weight around. When they believe in a film, they push it hard. Happy Meal toys, bus ads, theme park tie-ins, the whole deal. But with Snow White, none of that magic worked. The film went from Disney's next big thing to what in the world happened here in just a few days.
The reaction has been absolutely horrible. It is the worst box office from a Disney live-action remake that they've ever done in Dumbo.
It all ended with Snow White earning a crown no one wanted. The worst box office flop in the history of Disney's live-action remakes. Yep, worse than...
Say, if I'm going to stand there 18 hours in a dress of an iconic Disney princess, I deserve to be paid
for every hour that it is streamed on.
Snow White was supposed to be Rachel Zegler's big Hollywood glow-up. Well, that glow clearly just exploded in her face. Insiders say she's been hit hard by the realization that the movie, meant to show off her talent, now feels like the beginning of a downward spiral. Of course, what doesn't help is the Cold War with Gal Gadot. But hey, what's a Hollywood disaster without some co-star drama? The evil queen, Wonder Woman, and also Rachel's rumored nemesis, is playing the part. From the early days of the press tour, whispers were flying around that these two had clashing political views. Of course, Gal being of Jewish origin and Rachel speaking up for Palestine would do that. Rachel posted, "And always remember, free Palestine." So, when you're trapped together on a global promo tour, that's a recipe for awkward silence and side eyes. Things finally blew up when Gal planned this big cast and crew celebration meant to bring everyone together. Cute idea, until it turned into the Met Gala of passive-aggressive side conversations. Rachel didn't even show up. She said it clashed with her values, which was PR speak for no thank you.
Princess is pro-Palestinian, and the evil queen is a Zionist.
On-set reports said Rachel and Gal Gadot couldn't even fake liking each other. Rumors of ideological spats and political disagreements got so intense that filming had to be rescheduled more times than anyone could count. That meant ballooning. Budgets, overworked editors, and hours of footage that just didn't work. Editors were practically performing dark magic to stitch together scenes that looked remotely cohesive. One source said they could barely film 2 minutes of dialogue without tension crackling in the air. That tension spilled right onto the screen too. Audiences noticed the awkwardness. Reviews called the chemistry non-existent, and some said it felt like watching two coworkers silently hate each other during a forced Zoom call. Disney tried to keep the drama quiet, but clearly it didn't work. The princess is pro-Palestinian, and the evil queen is a Zionist. At this point, even the marketing campaign was fighting for its life. Cancelled photo shoots, reshoots filled with weird tension, and PR teams probably stressed, chugging red. Bulls backstage just to survive. Nobody wanted to do interviews. Reporters were warned not to ask about the co-stars in the same sentence. Promo events got weirdly quiet or rescheduled, but the real red flag was when online talk shows and Twitter started asking whether the film itself could even survive all this negative energy.
Zegler has been described as a walking PR disaster for Disney.
The movie hadn't even come out yet, and people were already debating whether Disney should just release it directly to the forgotten bin on Disney+. Y'all, the memes are unstoppable. Weird. With the bad press spreading like wildfire, the box office took a nosedive.
To keep her fat mouth shut.
Theaters scrambled to replace Snow White with literally anything else. Horror flicks, rom-coms, even reruns of old blockbusters were pulling more viewers. Insiders revealed that entire screening schedules were being scrapped because of how badly the movie was flopping. The final nail in the coffin came when theaters gave up. Disney execs had one last hope. Maybe a strong second weekend could turn things around. You know, maybe word of mouth would magically do what marketing couldn't, but nope. Instead, it got worse. More theaters pulled the movie. Sources, apparently,
Princess is pro-Palestinian, and the evil queen is a Zionist.
Yeah, so theaters were freeing up screens left and right, choosing literally any other movie over Snow White. That sent a loud and clear message. Nobody believed this film could make a comeback, not even the studio's YouTube channels with cat videos and Minecraft parodies were pulling more views than Disney's massive budget Snow White. That's how far the mighty have fallen. Sources close to Rachel say the pressure was unbearable. Between tabloids picking apart her interviews, social media dragging her every word, and major news outlets calling her out, she was in freefall. Her comments about the original 1937 Snow White, which fans felt were smug or just plain mean, didn't help. Disney left the comment sections open, which, let's be honest, was probably the boldest move of the whole project. Then came Rachel's disappearance. After the movie got pulled from theaters, Zegler pretty much vanished. Insiders say she went dark, locking herself away from the spotlight. Friends described her as heartbroken, crying often, and feeling like she'd become the face of a Hollywood train wreck. And let's be real, this wasn't just a flop, this was Disney Snow White, one of the most iconic roles in the world, and it turned into a branding nightmare for Rachel. That's a brutal weight to carry. Now Hollywood's nervous, very nervous. Even though most people agree she's talented, no one wants a repeat of this disaster. Some studio execs are reportedly hesitant to cast her in big-budget films, afraid of dragging the same drama onto their own sets. And it's not just Rachel. There's talk that anything with Gal Gadot or Zegler might now come with the stench of Snow White's spectacular failure. To top it all off, Gadot's camp is pointing fingers. They blamed Zegler for most of the chaos, especially her viral moral message interviews and those political sound bites that made fans rage quit before the movie even released. It's become a full-on blame game. And this isn't just about one actress or one film. Disney itself is now in hot water. The company that used to be untouchable, the definition of family-friendly entertainment, is now licking its wounds. Snow White didn't just underperform, it imploded. And that has execs asking, if we can't even get Snow White right, what does that say about everything else we're making? So, what do you think? Was Rachel Zegler just in the wrong movie at the wrong time? Do you think Disney's remake strategy is officially toast? And, be honest, would you have watched this Snow White even if all the drama didn't happen? Let me know in the comments below.